his room, not a closet, but that's the room he's in. But I mean, the other kids boarding school that are paying for it, their rooms are significantly nicer. But so he's working full time at the boarding school while he's going to school, while he's building his dream team. And his family is not happy with him doing this, because when you go to school like this, and then you go off to Oxford or Cambridge, and you go into the city and you work for Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, whatever, and that's that's it. And so I'm sure that during this gap year, the year that they take off, that he'll do well, but he's extremely focused. And when you add that to his lack of maturity vis-a-vis his years and age, I mean, it's pretty exceptional. It's pretty exceptional. But more and more young kids, and they've got some kids even younger, but it's too much hassle when you take 13, 14, 15-year-olds. Somebody gets hurt, no matter what the parents sign, you're in trouble. So it's been suggested by more than one that I ought to just do a deal for fathers and sons, daughters and mothers, which I'm too old, to go down that line. But what are the takeaways from listening to the young guy?
I can't believe how well-spoken he is. If you didn't see his face, you would never guess that he was a 17-year-old kid.
And when Josh was growing up, because we didn't use a lot of him in years before, because it had mixed results with the guys and you. Some was so debilitating because when he's 16, 17 and he looks 10, I mean, go, fuck, Whereas I thought it was, the glass is half full. Jesus Christ, look at that. If just a baby can do that. But, depending on your own emotional makeup, your own emotional bank account, it had varying effects. But we got a whole slew of the kids. I mean, we got a shit pot of them. And he's never been asked about his age. Okay? Whereas when we talked to Ozan a couple of days ago, now most of you in this room aren't worried about them asking you about your age because you're long in the tooth. I mean, no, Doc, nobody's going to ask you about your age. I can assure you. I can fucking guarantee that. Nobody's going to ask you, how old are you, young man? But it's something that we were taught, wrongfully, information, conventional wisdom. These guys, when you convince them that you know how to get the fucking money, they don't care if you're 6. Literally, they don't care. And when you in the beginning of that proof is 250 years of Dream Team, all these gazillion transactions, et cetera, et cetera. And if you come from finance and you've got a little edge, and like I've told you, they're gonna think better of you than they should because of your background. But that's fine. All we need is a little teeny edge. And I'm only suggesting you change maybe 10% of how you do things. It's the important 10%. A 250 batter in American baseball gets paid now $3, $4, $5 million a year. A 450 guy makes $25, $30 million a year. That's only 10% difference in batting average, and that's the geometric difference. But at the end of the day, when they take you seriously for 2 reasons. Number one, you put this team together. And number two, you are absolutely convinced, they're convinced based on the track record of the team, you can continue to get the money. It's easy. And it's like he follows the scripts. I'm sure that you have done business with private equity, et cetera, et cetera. And that's magic. Because once you get them to say yes and yes to those first 2 things, then they may not like you. Okay? But in today's day, they're not going to say, I don't like Chinese, I don't like black, I don't like green. They're not going to tell you that. They might not like you, but when you get them answering the questions, It's tough for them to say no. And I've said this before on YouTube, I'm going to say it again. Every major law firm, the top 50 law firms, the top 50 accounting firms, has a business development budget, meaning that they can take risky clients. In other words, put the firm's money at risk, not to put it into the deal, but in terms of time, billable hours. Every firm in the top 50. Okay? What you want to do is you want to be one of those that they decide to invest time in, and that they're willing to write off. Now, certainly, I mean, downtown London, the main PwC office is probably already got their risk allotment out. But, you know, there's 200 offices of PwC in Britain. And in America, there's 800. So, but all the firms have money that they're willing to write off ultimately for business development, and you're the business development. Now, obviously, when they do the same thing for KKR and Blackstone, two of the biggest and most successful private equity firms in the world, they don't expect to have to write it off. And quite frankly, rarely do they have to write it off for you guys. Because you know, even if you might step on your dick a bunch, you ultimately, after 2 or 3 mistakes, get a deal done and you pay all the fees off. And once you pay all the fees off, I mean, you're their favorite guy or gal. What else? Anything else about...
You know, his background, I mean, because of the suit and the way his haircut and the way he presented himself, I never would have thought that his parents were poor, that his boxing gym burned down. I mean, he just looks successful to me.
Well, he didn't look that way 8 months ago. But, I mean, most of you guys and gals clean up pretty good. Now, some of you don't clean up no matter what. Now, we've, and it's not that I... well, discourage I do, but it's not that I have any dislike for people that have tattoos on their face and earrings. But this dog don't hunt for you. I mean, you two. I mean, I'm just telling you. I don't give a shit how much you clean up. You know, it's just, you know, there's certain, instead of a speed bump, it will be the Grand Canyon. There's certain things you just can't get by. You're not going to walk in to a major Big Four accounting firm with tattoos all over your fucking head and earrings, and that's not going to happen. They'll come up with a reason why not to, believe me. They'll come up with a reason. Your picture may be the only reason they decide not to do it, business with you. But yeah, but the kids, well, Ozan, who we saw a couple of days ago, who looks younger than him, even though he's 3 years older. But at the end of the day, you follow the scripts. You follow the scripts. And he hasn't been able to leave his boarding school because they don't let you out willy-nilly, you know. So he's done more of it, not in person, but on the phone or Skype or something like that. But he looks well in Skype or Zoom. I mean, there's, you know, he looks maybe in his middle 20s, something like that. So, and there are plenty of whiz kids around that are in their middle 20s. I used to be one of those whiz kids a long time ago. But, and again, if you look hard enough on the internet, there are pictures of me young. But you got to really look. And most people say I don't even look the same. I mean, I don't. What else about, any questions about what he did or how he did it, other than he follows the steps? And he said it in a slightly different way than I do, that fulfilling the steps changes your mental attitude, and part of that change of mental attitude is because of confidence, et cetera, et cetera. Because it is flat out a building process. And the stronger your foundation, the stronger you'll build upon it, and you'll have less slippage or slipbacks or fallbacks, which all keep you from default. Yes, sir.
You found board members via an agency. What was?
Oh, well, you're gonna get the link. You're gonna get all this. There are 3 different online deals. We'll find you a CFO and pay us when you get money. Okay? Pays when you, but you really have to, and we covered that the last day, but you really have to pinpoint what you want. And most of you don't know enough. I know what to say to get the right person in the door. He had to go through practice of doing it on his own and LinkedIn before he knew enough to use that service. But a few of the guys and gals, maybe 5% or 8%. And part of the reason is because he couldn't leave campus. Because if he could leave campus, then I would have said, don't do that way. Don't do it that way, because I want you. But his presentation skills are pretty good, especially for his age. I mean, his presentation skills are good for a 50-year-old. And he's hungry, as you can tell. He's motivated. He will be the first person in his family to ever accomplish anything even remotely close to this. Remotely close to this. Anything else about him? Yes, sir.
Could you elaborate on when he said he'll spoon feed the board of directors percentage?
Because he sends them reports every 3 to 6 weeks, which you're going to get a template. You want to keep them in. The only time these guys leave you is when they think that you're not using them or you're not keeping them informed. The biggest fear they have until you do a deal is you're going to do something that's going to embarrass them. And God knows some of the kids do. Believe me, they do. But he gives them information. He keeps them in the information loop. And the board members appreciate that. All the board members appreciate that. But every 3 to 6 weeks. 3 weeks if you got a bunch of stuff going. 5 or 6 weeks if you don't have that much going. And all the guys that are going to be on your board will understand it's not easy to go find a motivated seller. Okay? And in their lives, they never made 300 cold calls. But did I answer your question about the spoon feed? Oh, we haven't talked about that yet. But there's 2 ways to compensate your board members with free founders equity. There's, you're going to be CFO 5%. Okay. You're going to be CFO, I'm going to give you 1% now, 1% at the end of 1 year, 2% at the end of 2 years, something else at the end of 3 years. It's called vesting. Okay. That way, but big guys won't take a vesting. They're not going to come and let you vest them. But the 50% of the board that you're going to hire, even though they're going to have great names, will understand vesting, because vesting is a more 21st century thing. Okay. Normally, vesting was when Lou Gessner left Federal Express as CEO to go be not Federal Express, Amex, to go be CEO at IBM. They gave him 20 million shares. They gave him 5 million share signing bonus. Okay, and they gave him 5 million shares for every 3 or 5% their ROI improved from when he took over. So at the end of 15 or 16 or 17 years, he was eligible for 25 million shares. He actually got more than 25 million shares because he knocked it over the wall, home run from the very beginning. And so then he had to renegotiate his vesting program. And when everybody's making a lot of money, nobody minds renegotiating the vesting program. Okay, that's the good news. That's because you've done well. But that's what he means. If you mean spoon-fed the equity, some of the directors got 1% now, 1% over 3 years, or 0.5% now, and 1 or 2% over 3 years. And that can be based on time, just seniority. I don't like seniority, just seniority ones. I like it based on the results of how the company grows. Okay, when we grow to 50 million in revenue, and it's a team effort, we all get this. When we grow to 500 million, we all get, bless you, we all get this. We go to $1 billion, or upon exit, either through a strategic sale, us to a strategic player, or IPO, all the vesting comes to fruition at once because that was our goal, to exit. And so you get all your percentage. even if a lot of time hasn't run, or even if you didn't hit your ROIs, because that's normally how the vesting programs are based. And the lawyers and the accountants and everybody, I say everybody, but anybody that's going to be involved with you will understand and know how to put it together. And again, like he said, he hasn't done that because he hasn't had the board meeting, because we don't have a transaction to talk about. And believe you me, I mean, he has been, not by me, he has been pounded about a board meeting. The one thing I can get, well, a bunch of things, they're gonna want to have a board. They want to get together. They want to see the look in the eyes of the other directors, because they've got nothing to do and all day to do it in. It's like being in Holland, heaven, you know. They want to have a board meeting. They want to know if you're full of shit and there's really are these other guys. Now, not one of you, but we've had guys that have practiced QLA. There was no board. There was no chairman. There was no nothing. And but to the best of my knowledge, nobody that's come through here has done that. So, I mean, they want to know, let's have a coffee, have a this, have a that. And we don't have a meeting until there's something to talk about. Because remember, when there's something to talk about, they're going to be less focused on you that you're 22 years old. Or less focused on you that you're, I say this tongue-in-cheek, a fat housewife that never did shit. And now all of a sudden she's the fucking... and we have that, and some of them are up there. They went from fat housewife, never did shit except have kids, to rich. That's a quantum leap for sure. Yeah. Anything else about him? Okay, YouTube. Thank you.